Pope Francis returns to Rome after his apostolic journey to Slovakia. The Holy Father's last engagements were the prayer with the bishops and Mass at the National Shrine of Sastin. During Mass on the memorial of Our Lady of Sorrows, Pope Francis invited Slovaks to imitate Mary in her journey, her prophecy, and her compassion. The Pope also encouraged Christians to a faith that becomes compassionate and identifying themselves with those who are hurt and suffering. EWTN Newsroom correspondent Colm Flynn joins us now. Colm, great to see you. Tell us, what did the Pope say at the press conference on today's papal flight?
Good evening, Tracy. Well, the Pope was asked a number of questions on the papal flight returning to Rome, as is custom to have a press conference on the plane. But the biggest question, Tracy, was about whether or not politicians should be given communion who support abortion. Now, the Pope responded to this by saying that the Church is a community, and for anyone who supports abortion, then they are outside of that community. But at the same time, he said that any shepherd in the Church, referring presumably to priests and bishops, they must act pastorally and not politically. And he went on to say that this was because everybody must be accompanied.
And can you tell us how the Pope marked his final day in Slovakia?
I can indeed. Today was, as you mentioned, the end of his 4-day papal trip to Hungary and Slovakia. 1 day in Hungary, 3 days in Slovakia. And it also marked the end of Pope Francis's 34th apostolic trip. Now, earlier this morning, before leaving Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, Pope Francis visited the National Shrine of Sastin. This is a very popular shrine in Slovakia, which welcomes around 200,000 visitors every year. And this morning, more than 50,000 people turned up to attend an open-air Mass with the Holy Father. The Mass was to celebrate the solemnity of Our Lady of the Seven Sorrows, who is the patroness of Slovakia. And the Pope, he's not the first important visitor to go to the shrine. Mother Teresa paid a visit in 1987, and St. John Paul II prayed there in the local basilica in 1995. And Tracy, during his homily, Pope Francis urged the people gathered to open their hearts to compassion and live a faith, quote, that identifies with those who are hurting, suffering, and forced to bear heavy crosses.
And Colin, before I let you go, what was the overall message or theme from the Pope's apostolic trip?
Well, on Sunday, when he first arrived in Hungary, all eyes were on his meeting, of course, with Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Now, the Pope insisted that this trip was one of pilgrimage, not a political one. The Prime Minister then took to Facebook after their meeting to say that he had asked Pope Francis not to let Christian Hungary perish. Prime Minister Viktor Orban has very much modelled himself as a Christian and a supporter of Christian values. And then in Slovakia, the Cult Lebovic People's Party, they say that they stand on 3 pillars: Christian, national and social. And yesterday, speaking in Slovakia, the Pope said that the cross should not be used as a political symbol, and he warned against Christians trying to be triumphalists in their faith. His homily was all about Christian identity and what that means. He pointed out that Christians often use crosses and crucifixes in a superficial way. He said to the 30,000 people who are gathered, many Christians here have crucifixes and crosses around their necks, on their walls at home, in their cars, etc., but had no real relationship with Jesus. He said, quote, "What good is this unless we stop to look at the crucified Jesus and open our hearts to him?" The cross is not a flag to wave, but the pure source of a new way of living. And then he added that a true believer views no one as an enemy, but everyone as a brother and sister. And after his homily, Tracy, the Pope went on to visit one of the poorest communities in Slovakia, a settlement of Roma people where he condemned discrimination against them. Tracy?
Colin, thanks so much. Colm Flynn, EWTN Newsroom correspondent. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tracy.
Well, back in